Senator King, you're recognized for a motion to suspend the regular order of business on House Bill 4.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I do make that motion and want to lay out with some opening remarks here before questions. But I also, when I was listening to Pastor Scott Wall's prayer, he was talking about the fruit of the Spirit. And if I remember right from Galatians, that's love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And I asked him if maybe we could add expedition to that, knowing that this is going to be kind of a long day, but apparently you can't add to Scripture, so that's not going to work. But anyway, if I can, if you wouldn't mind giving me just a couple of minutes to lay out some things that to kind of remind us what we've got in front of us today. But just by way of introduction, when I began this process, I had two goals in mind. The first goal was for the map, which is now HB 4 that's before us, for the map to be legal in all respects. That was the first goal. And the second one was that it would perform better for Republican congressional candidates in Texas. However, as we heard public testimony through, I guess, the 7 total hearings we had, 6 with testimony, there were numerous citizens and office holders that voiced concerns over the compactness of some districts. Compactness, as you know, refers to a principle requiring districts to be where they can be, drawn in geographically tight shapes, trying to avoid irregularities when possible. And so since that was mentioned so many times during testimony, I ended up adding a third goal for today's map, and that would be that it would also improve compactness for the congressional districts in our state. Let me just talk a little bit about that first goal of the map being legal. With regard to legality, and we've discussed this before when we did SB 4 last special, the legislature can choose to redistrict at any time, including during special sessions and even during mid-decade. Courts have well recognized this broad authority. Therefore, it is perfectly legal for us to have HB 4 before us today in this second called special session. Further, another big step in legal compliance is the one person, one vote standard. The U.S. Constitution requires that congressional districts be drawn with population as close to equal as possible to achieve the one person, one vote standard. And that makes the ideal district for us when you divide the 2020 census by the number of congressional members we have, it comes out to 766,987, and that's our target population for each district. HB 4, that's before us today, also meets this one person, one vote standard. Now, beyond this, beyond the fact that we can do redistricting at this term of the redistricting cycle, and beyond the fact that we need to have equal population for one person, one vote, beyond this, the area of redistricting law is very robust and gets very complex very quickly. Therefore, what I've done, because I'm not an expert, I'm an attorney, but I'm certainly not a redistricting attorney, but I have relied on legal counsel throughout this process. And I have been fully assured by that counsel that HB 4 complies with all applicable law. And the House counsel has come to the same conclusion. I haven't talked to them directly, but our counsel has conferred with theirs. So all that said, members, as we're here today for however many hours we're here, I want you to know that I'll do my very best to answer your questions, and I know a number of them are going to be about legal matters. But I would also ask that you please remember that we are not in a courtroom today. This is not a courtroom, and I'm not under deposition. Again, I'll do my best to answer your questions, but I don't want us to get into a legal debate over nuances. That's not our job. Courts take pages and pages just to talk about some of the definitions that apply to redistricting. And that's just not what we're here for today. I'll do my best, but please remember we're not in a courtroom and I'm not under a deposition today. So that's what I'd like to say about the legality of this map. Next, shifting to that second goal I mentioned of partisan performance, and that's what really everybody wants to talk about. And HB 4, I believe, should elect more Republicans to the U.S. Congress. But I'm here to tell you there are no guarantees. There are competitive districts in here now, more competitive than the current map. And I have no idea who's going to run for what office. And I have no idea which incumbents may decide to stay or leave, or if they'll decide to run for different districts. I just don't know. I believe this map is more competitive, but there are no guarantees that it elects more Republicans. I also want you to know, and I can't emphasize this enough, that I have not reviewed any racial data. In contrast to the complications that are involved with race-based redistricting, political performance is really a pretty easy map to draw, and it's absolutely permissible as a basis for drawing electoral districts. And this map is drawn based on political performance. I have not looked at any race data. Now, regarding the district lines in HB 4, I will tell you that nearly every one of the 38 Texas congressional districts' boundaries are modified, but they are modified, for the most part, with a few exceptions, in very minor ways. The most significant changes affect 5 districts, and I do believe those districts, due to the changes, will now lean Republican in political performance. Those 5 districts that now will lean Republican in political performance are CD9 Houston, CD28 in the RGV, CD32 in Dallas, CD34 in Coastal and South Texas, and CD35 in San Antonio. I'll be happy to go into detail on those districts later if anyone would like to. So I do believe that the map is legal. That's our first goal. I do believe it performs better for Republicans, which was the second goal. And the third one, which I mentioned didn't come up until we went through hearings and we started listening to people, is the issue of compactness. As I mentioned earlier, it was developed from these repeated comments in public testimony. In HB 4, which I believe we have made some significant improvements, the most improved district in terms of compactness is CD 35, and that's under both the REOC and the Paulsby-Popper measures of compactness, and those are formulas that are used in courtrooms across the United States to measure compactness. The most improved district under those measures is CD 35. The second most improved district would be CD 29. And also CD 9 is substantially improved under those measures. So in summary, I believe HB 4 meets the critically important goals of legality, of political performance for Republicans and of improved compactness. And that's why I believe it supports or it deserves and merits our support. I will make one final note. HB4, in addition to those three goals, also has the added benefit of fixing a couple of concerns that were raised by our members and actually brought up in testimony from the El Paso area. Senator Blanco had mentioned concerns over Fort Bliss having been taken out in the previous map out of the CD16 in El Paso. There were also witnesses that testified when we had our West Texas focused hearing, witnesses from El Paso that brought that up as well. And so in response, Fort Bliss has been moved back, the critical part of it that they were concerned about, into CD16. And I'm glad we were able to help Senator Blanco and his constituents in that regard. Also, Senator Hall had raised concerns about Navarro County being divided for the first time. And the House actually fixed that as it was going through their process. So I'm glad we were able to make a couple of accommodations there. And with that, again, I would move to suspend the regular order of business.